Hi everyone, this is Rochelle. I am the Home Garden Program Manager at Verde, and I want to welcome you back to another monthly workshop for September. This month we will be talking about winter garden preparation and seed saving. And before we get into our overview, we just want to check in with you. How is your harvest going? We want to hear from you. And so we've created a Google survey, a little Google form with a couple questions. It's not long at all. It'll only take you a few minutes. And basically, we just want to hear from you as to what your favorite plants have been this summer, what has grown really well, what might have gotten diseases, and maybe which ones weren't your favorites. And that way, that will inform our work for the coming growing seasons. All right, our lesson today, our overview, we're going to start with a general review, like always, of the previous month's content. So I'll briefly go over August. Our nutrition and health topics are vitamins and minerals. Our garden topic is winter garden preparation and seed saving. Our climate change topic is heirloom seeds versus GMOs. Our climate change action step is seed preservation for heirloom seeds. And then we'll end with some announcements. So back in August, we talked about several things. Our nutrition topic was on the different types of fats in our diet. We talked about monounsaturated or polyunsaturated fats. So basically, the best good kind of fats are the unsaturated. Those are going to be found in your oils, your nuts, your fish, avocado. They all have the best type of fat. Fat is essential for your body. You need it for healthy brain function. You need it for regulating hormones and a variety of other processes in your body and for growth. It's really important in children who are growing, in women who are pregnant. And so we want to be sure we get the adequate amount of good fat. And fat also helps us digest vitamins, which we will be talking about a little bit more later. So the two bad types of fat are our saturated fats and our hydrogenated oils and the trans fats. So as you can see from the chart on the left over here, this is from the American Heart Association. And so these two types of fat are less healthy for our bodies. The trans fats over here, the really bad ones, these should be consumed as little as possible. Those are going to be your baked goods, the treats that have the hydrogenated oil in it. That's really unhealthy for your body. It can lead to obesity, to your arteries becoming clogged. So like in the same way that we get plaque on our teeth, we can get plaque in our veins and arteries, and that constricts the flow of blood, so less blood can get through. The heart has to work harder, and it can lead to heart disease, among other illnesses. So we really want to focus on the good, healthy fats. Our saturated fats, which are bad, but not quite as bad as the trans fat. So those are going to be found in animal products. So cheese and meat and butter and that type of thing. So you can still consume these products, but what you want to do is just limit them and not have them be at every single meal and in large quantities. You want to keep the proportions small for your diet and focus on the unsaturated fats. Good rule of thumb is to use fats that are in liquid form at room temperature, except for the avocado, that's our exception, or the nuts. But when it comes to like lard or butter or margarine, you want to go more towards the cooking oils, so extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil. There's lots of different types of cooking oils that you can use. And then of course, fish has the omega-3 fatty acids. So that's just a little bit about fat, and if you need a little bit more in depth, you can go back to August and rewatch that portion. We also we're talking about when to harvest and how to know if your food is ready to harvest from your plants in the garden. So we went over each specific type of food, whether it was eggplant or tomatoes, and gave you some tips on how you'll know when it's ready. One of the techniques that we suggested for harvesting is cut and come again, and this works well for a variety of leafy plants such as lettuce, spinach, kale, chard, mustard, pak choi, cilantro, basil. And so essentially all you're going to do is you're going to cut the plant and leave 1 inch remaining at the base of the plant, and that's going to allow for it to regrow. And so you'll get to have multiple harvests with that method. We also talked about when you harvest, sometimes you have more than you can use at one time. And so it's helpful to know ways to preserve your harvest. Some of those ways include bottling and canning, drying and dehydrating, and we also talked about blanching and freezing. So those are all ways that you can prolong your harvest by preserving them. And many of them will last months in the freezer, or if they're canned properly and sealed properly, they should last you several months. So we also, in August, we ended by talking about the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change and how they're actually interconnected, because as we affect the environment that we live in, it has to adjust and change. As we destroy animal habitats and come into closer contact with animals that we didn't used to have contact with, we're going to be more exposed to their diseases. And the same goes for rising temperatures. As temperatures change, animals are going to be able to migrate, or insects such as mosquitoes, to regions of the world where they weren't previously able to because it was too cold or not the right environment. And so mosquitoes, of course, are known for spreading many diseases, malaria, yellow fever, and so our carbon footprint, which accelerates and causes climate change because it's pollution going into the atmosphere and breaking down the protective barrier of the ozone layer. So as that happens, as the global warming increases, we have a kind of a ripple effect of environmental impacts. And so the long-term, one of the long-term solutions we recommended was reforestation, and also advocating for not cutting down forests in order to do monoculture farming, which is often the case. I know a lot of the rainforests and such have been cut down for palm oil, so they're just growing palm oil trees, palm trees where they get the oil. And while this is used in so many different types of foods, it destroys the ecosystem. Ecosystems need diversity to thrive, because every part influences the other. And finally, as our short-term kind of solution for addressing the pandemic, was just to be really mindful of wearing our face masks, of keeping our social distancing when we're in public, when we have to be in the grocery store, and just really thinking about each other, protecting our more vulnerable community members, such as our elderly and the immune compromised. And you know, we're all anxious for this to be over, and so as we all do our part, hopefully we can get things back to normal sooner than later. All right. Let's move on. So our health and our nutrition topic is on vitamins and minerals. Okay, so vitamins and minerals are important components of our diet. Receiving adequate amounts in our diet helps our bodies function well and prevents diseases. So I want you to go ahead and if you printed out your handouts, you're gonna find one that says vitamins and minerals. And this is going to give you some really good information. We emailed this out to you, and so if you didn't print it out, you can look it up on your email. for those of you who are not on our email list, you can go to, I'm not sure if this is backwards, but it's www.fda.gov/nutrition education. So that's the resource. You can find this online, and they have lots of downloadable worksheets on a variety of topics. So we'll go ahead and talk about this one. So according to the FDA, vitamins are organic substances that are naturally present in plants and animals and can be absorbed into the human body by what we eat. Our bodies can even make vitamins such as vitamin D through the sun and K. There are 14 key vitamins that may be listed on your nutrition facts label. The labels will tell you how much of the vitamin you need each day, as well as how much the food contains of a particular vitamin. So how much you need is, so you can see on the nutrition facts label here in the middle, we have our daily value. So that's each day you need 100% of these categories. And so for our calcium, we have 20%. Our vitamin D, we have 10%. And as you can see, I circled this bottom area. This is usually where the vitamins and minerals are going to be. With the exception of sodium, which is a mineral, and that's about higher in the list because it's a very important. A lot of people struggle with high blood pressure, which is connected to high intake of sodium. So sodium causes your body to retain water. Sodium is essentially salt. So it's going to cause your body to retain water, and what this does is it increases the volume of blood because there's more water in your blood, so it's going to increase the volume in the veins, and so that's putting pressure on the veins. It's causing the heart to work harder, and it can lead, when your heart is working too hard for a long time, it can lead to heart disease. And so we want to be careful about the amounts of sodium that we intake. Let's see here. Okay, so as you can see down at the bottom here, we see a little side note on sodium. So if you see that a food product has 20% or more of the daily value of sodium, that's going to be a very high sodium product. Sodium is very often found in condiments. If you use like soy sauce and different sauces like that, they're often very high in sodium, and, as well as soups. And so you want to either get low sodium or you want to make it from scratch so that you can control what you're putting in. And the average person really shouldn't have more than about 1 teaspoon of salt per day. And when we eat a lot of packaged foods, a lot of that is snuck in as preservatives and is not good for our health. So if you have high blood pressure, you need to consume 1,500 milligrams or less per day of sodium. The average person can consume about 2,300 milligrams a day. Sodium raises blood pressure, like I said, which over time puts stress and strain on the heart. Sodium is an essential mineral in small doses, but too much is not good. So check your food labels. An easy way to ensure that you're receiving adequate amounts of vitamins and minerals is to eat a primarily plant-based diet with some animal products and consume foods from all colors of the rainbow. As you can see on the slide on the left, foods in various color groups offer specific nutritional benefits. If we only ate 1 or 2 color groups, we would miss out on important nutrients. So each week, make it a goal to eat the rainbow. And in order to do this, we've created a handout for your family where they can check for 1 week, check the boxes of, you know, each day. Monday, did I get orange, yellow, green? And you can kind of go through, and I did it with my children, and it kind of became a little competition to see who could get all the colors every day. But sometimes, you know, you don't have access to all these different types of foods every single day. And so I would encourage you to think about it, if you can't do it every day, to think about doing it for every week. So every week, have you had something from each of these food categories, the food colors? Because they're going to do different things for your body, and are really important for your body to function well. So for example, let's look at this chart on the left. We have the orange beta carotene. So this is going to be your pumpkin, your orange, excuse me, your carrots. And these are, beta carotene is going to fight cancer, it's going to reduce inflammation, it's going to support your immune system, and it helps your vision. So we all know vitamin E in carrots is helping our eyes. It's that beta carotene. If we look down at the dark leafy greens, these have folate, which builds healthy cells and genetic material and boosts your heart health. And that's the deep dark greens, not the light greens. So iceberg lettuce doesn't really count. You want to go for the deeper greens. So this shows spinach and bok choy. So that they have folate. They also have calcium. So if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you don't eat any dairy products, get your dark leafy greens, and they're going to have the calcium to strengthen your bones, your muscles, and your heart health. So that's kind of, most people don't know, the dark leafy greens are going to have that high calcium. They also have other great things like iron and other vitamins for your body. Now our blues and purples, those are going to kind of be more the anti-aging, antioxidant vitamins and minerals. They help regulate hormones. They destroy free radicals, so that's the anti-aging. They're going to reduce inflammation and boost your brain health. So, like I said, do your best to try to eat from each color group every single week. And so maybe challenge yourself. If you take a look at this list and maybe you find that I only eat red apples, that's the only fruit I eat, or I only eat, iceberg lettuce, that really watery, light colored, it's still good for you, but it doesn't have the vitamins that the deep, rich green colors have. And so they do have this category, so like the light green, so like your cauliflower, which would kind of be like a white, it still has vitamins, but what you're really wanting is these deep colors, because they're going to have a lot of the beneficial nutrients in them. And then I just wanted to mention real quick, it says 12 main vitamins. The FDA says 14 for vitamins and 14 for minerals. But I thought this was kind of a cool graphic here, so you can just kind of see that all sorts of different foods have these vitamins, and that's why it's best if you don't eat the same thing every day, if possible, to have diversity in your diet, and that's gonna help your body stay healthy and strong. All right, moving on, our garden topic, our winter garden prep and seed saving. So before we explain how to prepare our summer gardens for the fall and winter planting season, we need to remind you of the importance of seed saving. So seed saving helps create sustainable gardening habits, decreases dependence on the industrialized agricultural system, which places their profits over our health, and increases seed diversity, because not everyone will be buying the same seeds from the same company. Gardeners who save seeds do not have to buy new each year and can also trade with one another. So there's a variety of methods to save seeds from your garden harvest, and the method depends on the type of plant. So one way is to dry mature fruit on the plant. For some plants, you need to allow 2 or 3 of your fruits, make sure it's healthy and has produced the traits that you desire, to fully ripen and dry out on each plant. So this is going to work well for plants like beans, peas, and okra. Another method is harvest and then dry the seeds. So for other plants like watermelon, squash, zucchini, cucumber, you're going to harvest the fruit when it's ripe. You're going to remove the seeds, rinse them, and then dry them in the sun or on a cloth or a plate for a couple of days. Make sure they're dried out. And the flesh of the fruit can be eaten as usual. So if you're having a watermelon, you just, pick out the mature, ripe seeds and dry them in the sun. And then you can save them for the following season. Tomatoes have a special process for saving seeds. They should be fermented in water for a couple days until the gel-like coating is dissolved from the outside of the seed. So when you have a tomato, you can eat the fleshy part, but the inside that has the goo and the seeds, you want to scoop that out of, your best tomato. And what you do is you put that in, maybe 1 or 2 inches of water in a glass. And each day for 2 to 3 days, you're going to cover it with like a little coffee filter and a rubber band. So you want air to be able to flow through. But you're going to take that jar, swish it around, and slowly the gel part is going to separate from the seed. And then that way, once the gel has separated, then you can scoop that off, pour out the remaining seeds, and dry them, and then store them in an envelope and as you would any other seed. Okay, so finally, another method is flowering. So other plants need to go to flower in order to harvest the seeds, and a great example of this is cilantro. Once the plant flowers, it's at the end of its life cycle and will leave seeds behind after the flowers are gone. For cilantro, the seeds can be saved and used as coriander, which is, a spice that we use in cooking, or they can be saved and replanted the following season. Other examples include lettuce, onions, spinach, quinoa, etc. If it's windy or rainy, you can also cut the stems with the flowers, tie them together, and hang them upside down until fully dry, like in your kitchen or garage. I'd recommend like putting a plastic bag around it in case any seeds drop, or you could put a bucket underneath so that you collect as many as possible. All right, and then once you have those, you're going to want to separate any like debris, stems, leaves, dried leaves, or petals, and just save the seeds. So I know one way that one of our coordinators does it with amaranth. She uses a paint tray, so it has the ridges on it, and then the bottom has, the dip to catch the paint. And so she'll take the amaranth and rub it on the ridged part of the paint tray, and then all the little seeds will go down and come off of the flower that way. So you want to store your seeds in an envelope or glass jar, not plastic, and write the date and the name of the plant on the envelope for use for the next season. If you have any silica packets, so maybe from new shoes or other purchases that you've gotten, they have these little packets of little balls that says "Do not eat silica," and those are essentially a mineral or a substance that helps draw out water or humidity from whatever package that it's in. And so it's good to use in your seed saving because it's going to help them not get too humid or too much moisture in them, because you don't want them to have the moisture until you're ready to plant and grow them. So you want to store them in a cool, dry place. Now, seed viability. To see if your seeds are viable the following year, place them in a glass of water. So this is good to begin the germination process anyway. But usually if the seeds float, they're not going to be good, and you can still try and see if they'll germinate, but most likely they're not good for whatever reason. It happens with any harvest. So you want to, that's why it also helps to have a few different fruit or tomatoes or whatever it is, so that you can expect some to not be viable. However, so the ones who float are probably not good, but the ones that sink are most likely going to germinate into little seedlings and plants for you. All right, and then finally, just a little note from what you see on your screen here. We can only save open pollinated seeds. Open pollinated is just meaning it's naturally pollinated by bees, insects, animals, and we cannot save seeds of hybrids or of GMOs because they're either sterile or they're not going to consistently produce the desired fruit. Okay, so let me see if I got all that. Okay, so that's for seed saving. So we want you to do that before you pull out any plants in preparation for the fall. We recommend that you try and save some of your seeds. So for our fall garden preparation, we really want to allow ourselves at least 2 weeks before planting day to kind of complete and allow the bed to rest. So what we need to do is we're going to pull out or cut back all of our summer crops. And I know it's really hard, but we really want to give you the experience of having gardened for 2 seasons and knowing how to care for the spring summer plants versus the winter plants, the fall winter, because there's a little bit different challenges that you face as a gardener with the climate cooling and usually more moisture and rain, precipitation. So so we want to give you an opportunity. So number one, you got to go ahead and clear out your garden bed. You can leave the roots of some of the plants. If the plant didn't get diseased or anything, go ahead and you can leave the roots in the soil, and that's going to provide nutrients for your bed. And again, if there's no weeds or seeds or disease, you can put anything that you pull out of your bed into your compost pile if you have one. And speaking of compost, your summer crops, any plant is drawing nutrients out of the soil, and so we're going to want to replenish that. So the second step after pulling out the plants is to add compost, replace the nutrients that the previous plants have already absorbed and taken out of the soil. And we do that by composting. So if you have a compost pile from February, you can go ahead and incorporate some of that. We learned about it in February, so you can go ahead and incorporate that. And if you weren't able to do that or you're not allowed to on your property, that's totally fine. You can always go and purchase a bag of compost for under 10 bucks usually at most stores like Home Depot or Walmart have, or any garden store. And so go ahead and add the compost to your soil. You're going to want to allow it to sit for at least 2 weeks because fresh compost is really strong and it can burn the roots of a baby plant. A big plant would be able to withstand it, but when you're putting in a little seedling, it's going to be more susceptible to getting burned by the intensity of the compost. So you're going to want to give it at least 2 weeks to kind of rest, settle in to the soil, and we'll then be able to plant in October. So this is your September homework. All right. Quick reminder on compost, what it needs: air, moisture, or water. It's going to need carbon or your browns, nitrogen, greens, the decomposition team, which are our worms, centipedes, beetles, roly-polies, among others. Right. Oops. All right, so moving on to our climate change topic, we have heirlooms versus GMO seeds. Okay. All right, so in his book, Seeds of Resistance, The Fight to Save Our Food Supply, our author Mark Sharpio explains that over the past century, 75% of the Earth's seed diversity has become extinct. So if there were 100 types of seeds in 1900, we now only have 25 different kinds of seeds left in 2020. This should be alarming to farmers and gardeners because the practice of farming monocrops and the resulting reduction in seed diversity makes crops vulnerable to rapidly spreading and devastating plant diseases, as was seen in the 1970s when blight destroyed good chunk of about 15% of American corn crops. In short, preserving a diverse array of seeds strengthens the food system because plants will be better able to resist devastating diseases and have time, generations, to adapt to climate changes as the seeds evolve their genetic makeup over time. So your seed is actually going to adjust to your climate. If it's very dry, and gets little rain, and you've planted the seed for many generations, or other farmers have in your region, that seed is going to be more drought tolerant. It's going to adapt itself to growing in the conditions of your climate. So there are different kinds of seeds that have been developed by farmers and scientists over the years. And so here's a brief summary you can see on your screen. So first we have open pollinated seeds, which are often labeled with an OP. These are the seeds that you can save. So these seeds are pollinated naturally via insects, animals, wind, or birds, and they pass down consistent traits to offspring seeds and plants. So if you plant a tomato plant and you save the seeds, that's open pollinated, and then you plant the seeds the following year, those plants that grow are going to produce fruit that's similar to the original tomato plant. An heirloom plant or seed is a type of open pollinated seed that has existed for many generations. Sometimes they say about 50 years or more, in a family or in a community. These seeds breed true to type, so the offspring are going to look just like the parent and taste like it. It's going to have the same qualities, and like the other open pollinated, they are adapted to your local climate. Now, a hybrid seed is usually labeled F1. So this means first generation, and it's when two different parent plants are used. So the pollen from the two different parent plants and is taken from one plant and fertilized on the other plant, and you're going to get hybrid fruit resulting. And then you take the seeds and you can, grow that fruit. But these, you cannot save the seeds for the following season. They're not going to produce reliable traits in the future seed generations, and so we can't save those seeds. So if you ever get something that says hybrid or F1, just know, you can grow it for that season, and there are some great hybrids, and occasionally we have to use them for our gardening. There was a huge seed shortage this year because everybody's gardening due to COVID-19. So hybrids, they're not horrible, but open pollinated and heirloom are really ideal because they're going to increase diversity. It's going to increase your self-sufficiency as a gardener so that you're not relying on purchasing new seeds every year. And so it's really important. GMO seeds are artificially created through gene splicing, and they're made by scientists. They're usually sterile, and they must be repurchased each year. These seeds lack genetic diversity because they're often used in commercial farming and then in the packaged foods that we eat, because it's on, this big scale agriculture, industrialized agriculture system. And they're also often dependent on chemical fertilizers and pesticides. So, mostly these seeds are not going to be sold to gardeners, but we do find that the food grown using GMOs is in a lot of our foods. And we don't know the long-term health consequences of genetically modifying you know, different seeds and how that affects our health. Now, another thing to note, so we have our 4 different types of seeds: the open pollinated, the heirloom, the hybrid, the GMO. Now, any of these can be organic, so they could be grown using only natural methods, so no chemicals, no pesticides, no herbicides. They also, any of them, can be non-organic, so it may be misleading. Even though you're buying an heirloom seed, which is kind of like the ultimate quality seed, it could be could have been grown not using organic methods. So this means that whoever grew the plant may have used pesticides and insecticides, and unfortunately these have been linked to cancer. Glyphosate in Roundup that's sprayed on the fields, in most mainstream food crops. Traces of these can be found in humans, in mother's breast milk, in a variety of, you know, our organs in our blood. It can be found in the land, in the minerals in the soil. It can be found in our water and in animals. And so these pesticides, we just strongly encourage you not to use them. They may give you the appearance of a nice healthy plant and fruit or vegetable, but ultimately they're poisoning us with the chemicals that are being used in the long run. So you really want to steer away from using chemicals. Okay, so our action step is to preserve heirloom seeds. Seed diversity strengthens the food system, because if everybody received the same seeds from the same company and we all planted them in our gardens, or the farmers planted all the same, and some sort of disease hits, it's going to spread rapidly. So that's what's happened, you know, with the potato blight, with the corn blight in the United States back in the 70s and 80s. So when you have diversity of seeds, so different varieties, different kinds, and, you know, the grown in small batches, that's going to increase diversity and protect from massively wiping out huge portions of the food production, and so there won't be the food shortages. So on the left, you can see some tips. So save your open pollinated seeds. Once again, an heirloom can be an open pollinated. Heirloom just means it's been around for many generations. So save your open pollinated seeds, store them in an envelope. Be sure to date and label, because it's really hard to remember 6 or 8 months, 9 months later. Store them in a cool, dark place with low humidity and low moisture. And then once again, as a reminder, the seed test is if they float, they're probably bad. If they sink, they're probably good. I also wanted to give a couple book recommendations. In the middle here, you can see the square foot gardening. This is the method we use at Verde. It looks like they have a 3rd edition available. And so if this is something that you would find helpful, go ahead and check your library right now. Even though we can't go into the libraries, a lot of these books are available digitally, and so you can download the library app on your phone and then check out some of these books, or you could order them or purchase them if you're able. So Seeds of Resistance really gives a great history of seeds, really globally, but it also focuses a little bit on the United States, and just how we went from very diverse seeds to a very, very small diversity of seeds, and how we want to kind of reestablish the seed diversity. I love this book over here, the No Dig Organic Home and Garden book. It's about growing, cooking, using, and storing your harvest. There's really great recipes, really great tips on caring for your garden. And so I just wanted to make those recommendations to you. Another thing you can do is local libraries, not all of them, but some of them have seed saving programs or seed banks. And so what you can do is you can go to the library, you can check out some seeds that you'll use, you'll plant in your garden, and then all you have to do is come back and report on how the seeds grew, what maybe how they thrived, if they were produced a lot of harvest or if they experienced disease. You're just going to want to provide some notes on the seed, and then save some seeds from the crop that you grew and return that new batch back to the library. And so there are libraries that do that here in Santa Clara County. So you can look up on Google seed saving libraries, you know, and put your zip code in there. Or let me see, I think I have the link. So the link is going to be at siliconvalleyseeds.org, and you're going to look for seed lending libraries. And so there was quite a few on the list. So hopefully they're still doing this, even though we're doing our social distancing. But you know, if your local library doesn't have a seed lending program, I would encourage you to inquire and see if they're willing to start one, because that's just a really great community resource and, you know, is free for everyone. So, okay, anything else? Let's move on to our announcements. We'll finish up here. So after each video, we encourage you to fill out our 3-question quiz that we have after each video. I'd like to encourage you to also fill out the harvest survey. Again, it's just a few questions and it'll give us feedback so that we know what worked and what didn't. Please contact your coordinator if you're in the program to let them know that you've watched the video. And prepare your beds for October, because a new planting season is coming. We're going to teach you all about the cool weather vegetables, and I hope you get excited about that. Finally, we wanted to extend the invitation to our program participants who've completed at least 1 year in the Valley Verde program to become mentors. And mentorship will basically mean you come alongside 1 or 2 families a month, checking on their gardens, helping them learn how to grow, how to plant, how to deal with pests and disease, and so you can just be a resource for them after having completed our program. So if you're interested in becoming a mentor at the end of this school year, or sorry, this program year, let us know, and we can give you some more information on that. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope it was informative. If you have any questions, always email us at info@valleyverde.org, or you can contact your coordinator if you're in one of the groups. Thanks again. I hope you enjoyed it.